Hey guys, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're going to be taking a look at this knife here. This is the Kershaw Knives CQC 11. As you can see, this is a collaboration with Emerson Knives. We have the Emerson Wave feature. This is a pretty interesting knife. I've had this for quite a while now, and I'm deciding to do the video on it right now because this guy is actually going to be on his way to Metal Complex after this video, so he can take a look at it. So let's get right into some size comparisons. So to start us off, as always, our Ontario Rat 1. As you can see, those guys are pretty comparable in size. Here's the Rat 2, obviously bigger than that because it's about the same size as a Rat 1. Next up, let's get our Benchmade Bug Out and our Spyderco PM2 right there. And these guys are actually kind of similar ergonomically, especially kind of back in this area here. We'll talk about ergos later. Here it is against our Civivi Praxis. So again, pretty similar in size to the Praxis. Here he is against the Feldspar. Pretty similar there. Here he is against some harder use knives. I consider this to be a hard use knife as well. Here's my favorite hard use knife, the Cold Steel 8015. And here's the knife that I was kind of comparing this Kershaw to. This is the Cold Steel SR1 Lite. They're pretty similar in a lot of ways, materials and stuff like that, so I was kind of comparing them. And now let's just compare to some Kershaws I have on my table. Here he is against the Kershaw Bare Knuckle. Kershaw Mini Copper Natrix. So, there we go. And two more. Here's what's quickly becoming one of my favorite Kershaws. This is the Highball. Love that knife. Great knife. And here's a goofy little one I've got on the table. This is the Kershaw Fraction. So quite a bit bigger than both of those. Alright, as for the actual specs on this guy, we have an overall length of 8.5 inches, blade length of 3.5 inches, weight of 5.8 ounces. So this is a pretty chunky guy. I picked this one up because I thought it looked really cool. This blade has kind of a stonewash. Most websites have this listed as a clip point, which, I mean, I guess there's a clip there, but I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like a cutlass. Arg, mateys. But, you know, it's kind of upswept, like a chunky Persian. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to call that. Like I already said, Emerson Wave feature, Emerson thumb disc. Stainless steel frame lock, which is where a lot of that weight comes from. It's completely stainless steel on this side. On this side, we have a stainless steel liner with a G10 scale, brown G10, which is something that you don't see too much, actually. And I don't know why. Blade steel on this guy is 8CR13 Whoa, never mind. Excuse me, 8CR14 MOV. You know, that extra MOV really makes a difference. Provides bounds and bounds of performance. I'm just kidding. So, like I said, I bought this guy because I thought it looked pretty cool. I saw it on sale on Blade HQ. Kind of disappointed. I found out after I bought this guy that there's a D2 version. I would have gone for the D2 version, but, you know, what's done is done. Still think it's a really cool knife. This one here, comes in at about 30 bucks. I think 29. And then the D2 one comes in about 55. Running on Teflon washers. Pretty smooth for Teflon washers. You know, it's definitely got that Teflon type of feel. But, you know, we'll talk about deployment and everything later. So, that's all we've got for now. Let's go ahead and go cut some cardboard and talk about how this guy performs. Like I said, I've been using them pretty hard. I got a little bit of edge damage there. Probably have to... Well, we'll see how the cardboard cutting goes. Let's do it. Alright, let's work through some cardboard. So as I said earlier, this is a knife that I've been using pretty hard. I actually forgot to sharpen it last time I used it. 8CR14. You gotta sharpen it a lot. But you know, we'll see. We'll see how this does. The blade shape, you know, we talked about this a little bit. Not sure what to call this blade shape, but it does lend itself to some pretty powerful cuts and some good slicing. Yeah, it's kind of a rough edge, but you know what? That's okay. That's okay. We can do this. Maybe. Actually, might have to sharpen this guy up before we continue any further. So this has a hollow grind. Yeah, we're going to have to sharpen this dude up. I will be right back. Okay, so I finished sharpening this guy up, and that brought me to some things I wanted to talk about a little bit. Sharpening this guy is easy, because it's 8CR14, but, you know, there's a couple things. Taking this off is probably helpful, especially if you're using stones. I can get in the way. And also, when it comes to the actual edge, I am not the world's best sharpener, by any means. I put good working edges on my knives. I can get them very sharp, but you're not going to see mirror edges here. You know, if you're looking for good edges, go watch Neve's Knives or something. But as you can see here, when sharpening this guy, there's not much of a sharpening choil at all, and so I'm not sure if you can see that, but you know, the edge comes out to here, but I can only start sharpening there. In fact, I've got a pencil in my pocket, I think. I usually do. Yeah, there we go. So, the edge comes out to here, but when you sharpen, you actually, let's see if the light can catch that, can't start sharpening till here. You can see the difference between this edge here. This was, you know, actually, you know, kind of factory edge. This is my edge. I have sharpened this guy before, so you can tell I'm starting to form a little bit of a smile there, but this is where the newest edge I put on started, was right there, and this part here cannot get sharpened anymore. So that's going to become a little bit of an issue. But let's go cut some cardboard now. All right, let's see if we have better luck with this cardboard with my new edge. New age. Sounds a little bit odd. Yeah. A lot better. Let's grab this big piece here again. So as I was saying when we first started this, the way this blade is shaped lends itself to, you know, when you're making cuts, and especially up here, you have, you know, the Emerson wave forms this ramp, and so your hand really locks in there, and you have jimping here, jimping back here. The G10 is nicely textured, so this knife isn't going anywhere. And, you know, I said it was similar ergonomically to the PM2. This knife is kind of, in hand, the lines kind of remind you of the PM2, but it's a lot thinner. And this knife is not as comfortable as a PM2, and in bare hands, if you're really bearing down, it can be a little bit rough, but the lines are good, so if you're wearing gloves, it won't be a problem. So as you can see, you can start off with a point right here, and since you have all that belly right there at the very top of the knife, it helps you to pull or push through a cut very, very nicely. This knife, in a lot of ways, really is intended to be used as a hard use knife. You know, Teflon washers, pretty sturdy construction. However, one thing that I don't like about it, you've probably seen as I'm cutting here, is this little area here. You can kind of choke up in there, but I guess it's there to, yeah, it's there to make room for the stop pin. But it gets caught up in a lot of cuts. If you try and do a long draw, it gets caught up in it, which with a knife like this, long drawing cuts are kind of what you want to do. But if you go, you know, a little bit too hard, if you're a little bit too enthusiastic, whatever you're cutting gets caught up in there. And that's just not a good time. But if you can avoid that spot, the blade shape does make short work of a lot of different kinds of cuts. Here. All right, let's go talk about carry and action, deployment, and stuff like that. All right, Emerson, Kershaw, CQC 11. So, I've already mentioned running on Teflon washers. So, you know, it's got this thumb disc, which I think thumb discs have their place. I don't think they're better than thumb studs, though. I do think that, you know, they do have their place, however. When you're thumb flicking this knife, you can 100% do it. You know, this is a smooth action. You know, it does feel like Teflon, but you know, it is smooth. The biggest part, talking about action deployment, is the Emerson Wave. How does that work? Well, I mean, it works good. You see the clip is set pretty low, so you have a lot of knife sticking out of your pocket to grab onto. So you grab on that, and it works just fine. In fact, it works so good that, you know, if you're not careful, this thing, Emerson, deploys every single time. You know, if you go in and you're changing clothes, gonna go to sleep, whatever, you're taking the knife out of your pocket to put back in the drawer, put in the toolbox, on the table, whatever, and you just kind of pull it out, it'll probably deploy it. So, you know, but especially if you're out working, like, you know, I use this knife a lot when I was out, you know, working, doing chores, feeding animals and stuff. And so, you know, especially if you're wearing gloves, it's wintertime right now, it's cold, I'm wearing gloves. I usually wear gloves when I'm working anyways. You have enough to grab onto, and you don't have to worry about messing with thumb studs or anything, so that's very, very convenient. And the wave feature forms a nice little ramp for your thumb. Another thing about this knife is you can see the hardware, flathead pivot, Phillips head body screws, and pocket clip screws. So you can take this thing apart with, you know, pretty much just standard tools that everyone has laying around. The stop pin, let's see if I can show that off, is actually set in there pretty far down, which I think adds a little bit to the rigidity and solidity of the stop pin. As you can see, that's the stop pin. Most stop pins are about up here, so that's pretty cool. Disengaging, no problem. There is no over travel stop. The pocket clip might be able to fill that roll a little bit, but I don't really think so. But again, $30 knife. Another thing about deployment, actually, in the action, is this Emerson hook. You can actually put your thumb in there and do like that, which is kind of fun. It's almost like front flipping it. Yeah. Honestly, with this knife, my biggest complaint is that I didn't get the D2 version. You know, I really, really wish I did, but I didn't. And I mean, the edge retention on this guy is not good at all. You know, I was talking about the Cold Steel SR1 Lite, you know, back at the table, comparing these two. That knife has 8CR13, but it's heat treated really, really well. and it works. And this is just pretty much your average run-of-the-mill Chinese alphabet steel. You know, kind of that CPM LOL. And even as I was doing the cardboard test back there, I could feel it dulling. You know? In fact, I did strop it right after that, which with 8CR sometimes doesn't help. But, you know, I think it's a shame because I really do like this blade shape. And maybe one day I'll get the D2 version and try it out, see how much of a workhorse it is. Because I do love this blade shape. My biggest complaint with the blade is this area here because, you know, that just gets hung up and stuff. You know, if you, I don't know, even ever so slightly are off about your cut, it's caught in there, you end up just, you know, it's not a good time. But I think that's all we have to say about this guy for now. Let's go back to the table and talk about what I do and don't like in greater detail. Alright, Kershaw Emerson CQC 11. What I do and don't like. This is probably going to be pretty quick. This knife, I think, in a lot of ways speaks for itself. So what do I like? Well, I think it looks really, really good. You know, I like this blade shape. I think this is a really, really cool blade shape. I like the handle, too. The shape of it, as well as the brown G10. You know, I think this is my only knife with brown G10 at the moment. I think I've had one other, but I don't know. At least for me, I haven't noticed seeing, you know, brown G10 around all that much. Taking this guy apart, very easy. I think, you know, deployment works just fine. Would I rather see phosphor bronze washers? Probably, but I mean, $30 knife, okay, you know. Blade steel, but again, it's my fault that I got the version because there is a D2 that I could have gotten. The Kershaw wave feature, it's pretty cool. I think the ergos work fine. I do think it's a good user knife. It's a good beater knife. You know, with the 8CR14 MOV blade steel, you know, you can take this knife and you can beat on it. And, you know, at the end of the day, just sharpen it up. And, you know, it'll be fine. It'll come back for more. What do I not like about this guy? Well, the blade steel, I don't like. But, again, I could have gotten the D2 version. This area here, don't like that at all. It gets caught a lot. Sharpening choil is non-existent. Pocket clip, it is okay, and the pocket clip, you know, it works, and it's got that mean face on it. It is reversible for lefties, so that's good. And, you know, honestly, there's not that much that I'm saying that I don't like. You know, fit and finish could be better, but again, at this price point, it's completely okay. Excuse me. You know, I think the best part about this knife is its looks and the blade shape. And honestly, the handle, the ergonomics are not bad. But I do think that this design is let down a lot by, you know, the blade steel. I do kind of wish there was an over travel stop. You know, maybe it's not completely necessary, but, you know, it is possible to push that guy way, way over. The hardware is kind of, I mean, it makes it great for taking this knife down in the field. You can take this knife down really, really quickly and, you know, clean it out, lube it up, whatever you need to do, you know, which is great. But also at the same time, at least in my experience, these screws are probably a little bit soft. I had a Kershaw Emerson knife a while ago. What was that? The CQ. Oh, I can't remember. It was the drop point 1, blacked out. The screws are pretty soft on that. And it's a pretty basic knife from there. You know, there's a lot of writing on the blade. You have all that. And you have all that. But honestly, it's a pretty basic knife. And I think this is a knife that, and you know, it's a beater knife. This is a knife that you get and you throw it in your toolbox. I don't think this is a collection piece at all. You know, if you're wanting this knife as a collection piece, get the Emerson version. Because the Kershaw version it's a beater knife. And it's hard to complain about beater knives because, you know, you take this knife and you're like, there's some sharp angles here. You know, there's some sharp corners. You know, in bare hands, it's a little bit owie. But wear gloves. Be on it. You know, I don't think anyone's going to be carrying this knife as a, you know, EDC. And maybe if you're carrying this as an EDC knife and you love it, disregard my opinion. I think this is this is an A-tier average knife, if that makes any sense. I think the design is the biggest thing this knife has going for it. You know, and this is a knife where, like I said again, beater. You beat on this, it breaks down, throw it away, you can get a new one. If this is the design that you really, really like. If you want to get a nice Kershaw, I mean, get yourself a bare knuckle. Or, heck, my favorite one currently, the highball. You know, go get yourself one of the copper natrix type deals. I think this is a fun knife, and I'm glad it exists. I might get the D2 version, and honestly, the D2 version, if I do get my hands on that, I'm probably not going to happen anytime soon, but if I do get my hands on that, my opinion on this knife might change a little bit. You know, because right now the biggest thing that I'm feeling with this knife is the performance just really isn't there. I wish this thing performed better. So maybe if I got the D2 one, I would like it a little more. I like this knife. I do like this knife. Don't get me wrong. I do like it. But, you know, it's a little basic. But still, if you like the looks of this knife, which I certainly do, buy it, which I certainly did, and use it. Enjoy it. It will work. Sharpen it a bunch, but, you know, it'll work. So, now I gotta take this guy and clean him up a little bit. I mean, I cleaned him up a little bit before this review, but there's some hay stains on there. Clean him up a little bit and send him off to Metal Complex and see what he has to say about that. Alright, that's going to be it for today, people. Have a great one. We'll see you in the next video.